friends out there in Radio Land. How's it going? Dr. Dave, I'm the RV Dummy, but this is not going to be an RV video today. This is my first episode of A Friend to Lean On. I did the introduction yesterday. Thanks so much, by the way, for all the positive comments on this new series called A Friend to Lean On. I think it's going to be really, really good for a lot of people. After all, I'm included in this category. I need friends to lean on because we're all human beings. We all need to be close. And even though in this COVID world right now, we can't really embrace and touch and hug and get that close, we need to stay 6 feet. But still, you know what I mean? Metaphorically speaking, we need to be connected and close. And that's what this series is going to be about. It's not going to be about COVID, but it's just going to be in general, even without COVID, in general, we need contact. We need a non-judgmental friend. We need somebody just to hang with. Maybe just a voice to hear. Maybe you're trying to fall asleep in the evening and it's tough for you. You've got things on your mind and you just want to put your device down next to your pillow and listen to somebody that's talking to you. I'm talking to you and telling some stories and just being together. This is not so I got a lot of really good comments yesterday about the show, about the series, and I just want to share with you before we get started on the official content, I should say. And by the way, I'm in my rig. I figure I'm going to do the first one from my van. I'm in Salt Lake City. It's definitely a little cold out here. I'm going to go ahead and probably, as we get moving, I'll probably get undressed a little bit. I don't have the heat running in here only because if I had the heat going in my RV right now, when it blows, it's loud and you wouldn't be able to, it would be really distracting and you wouldn't want to hear that. So I'll sacrifice being cold over sacrificing the sound quality and you not being able to hear me. And as I get into this stuff and as I warm up a little bit, I will I'll probably be taking some layers off here, so it's all good. I just want to share with you before we get started with the official content today. Some people thought that it's going to be like an advice column, like a Dear Abby, or I'm going to be personally coaching people and taking questions. No, it's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be basically me, if you can deal with me. It's going to be me sharing life situations and life stories with you. And I think a lot of them will hit home, touch your heart, be interesting. Maybe some won't be. I mean, again, I don't take offense to this. If you want to use this series as an aid to cure your insomnia, if you want to put the device down by your bed or as you're taking a nap, or maybe you're up during the day and you're alone in your house maybe, and you want just some companionship and you want to hear a voice, you want to hear a friendly voice talking to you, telling you some things that are going on and things that have gone on in the past, then this is the show for you. This is definitely the show for you. It's not for everybody. Some of you might say, Dave, have you gone off your rocker? What the heck are you doing? This is an RV channel. What are you doing? I'm unsubscribing. Well, I will tell you, I've been threatened a million times from people that say they're going to unsubscribe. And I hope you don't, because if you're watching me now, I really value you. There's no question. I value you as a friend and a subscriber. If this series is not for you, you don't have to unsubscribe to my whole channel, because I am going to still be doing RV videos as well. Yoko and I are going to be traveling. I'm getting a brand new house battery next week, and I'm going to probably share with you a little bit about that and how I'm installing it and why it's so much better than what I have now. But the series I'm doing now, A Friend to Lean On, is not about RVing. There'll be some episodes where I don't even mention an RV, and I'm probably not even going to be in the RV. I could be anywhere in the world. Well, I can't really travel now, so anywhere close by that I could drive to, because I don't even want to get on a plane right now. So that's what it's going to be about. I'm going to probably usually do a several minute introduction, because there's always going to be probably new people coming in and they're going to wonder, like, what's going on? What's what's Dr. Dave talking about today? This is an RV channel, so I'll have to like explain a little bit about the series and what's going on. So if you really get into this, you start digging it and really enjoy it. Future episodes, you can feel free to fast forward maybe I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes into the show, and we'll start on the content about then. But I'll probably just have some announcements at the beginning and just some things to talk about that are, I don't know, whatever's on my mind, and then we'll get into real content. And real content is not going to be, it's not going to be real content. It's going to be, well, it's not fake content, but it's in other words, I'm rarely going to have like a true agenda. I'm going to probably meander and go off on tangents, and I've got some really cool stuff I want to share with you today, but it's not scripted, and depending on what comes into my brain, that's what we'll talk about. Yeah, that's exactly what we'll talk about. And you might be wondering, well, why is Dave wearing a Dickie? Are any of you old enough to remember Dickies? You know, Dickies are the things. I think when I was like a younger kid, we had a shirt, a button-down shirt, and my mom would give me this thing. It's called a Dickie, and you like put it. It's like a fake undershirt, kind of. And I think they were like turtleneck, and this is not one. This is a what do you call these things? This is called a what do you call this? There's a word for it. I can't remember what it's called. This is called. Now I'm thinking about. I got to tell you because I can't remember now. It's called a where's the word for it? It's what is it? A buff? Is it called a buff? Something like that. I use these. So I use these now as kind of a to go a mask that I go everywhere with. Like I always wear this. So if I'm outside in Utah here, we have mandatory mask wearing. So wherever you are, if you're outside, you pretty much have to wear a mask. So it's not great protection, but if I'm just outside walking on the street or something, I'll generally wear this. And if I'm not near any person whatsoever, I can take it down. But then as soon as I see a human being near me, I'll put it up more like that. But if I'm going into a store or any place indoors where it's generally a store, or if I'm going to pick up carry-out food, I will always, I don't think I have it with me right here because I'm in my own van, but I always carry an N95 mask with me. It's not worth taking a chance. And this is not, even though this might look cool, so it's called a buff. I think it's a buff. Comment if I'm wrong, but I think it's a buff. It might look cool, but it's not really super protective. It's pretty porous, I think. But when you put an N95 mask on, you can hardly breathe. You know, I breathe through my nose now, by the way. Breathe in through your nose. It's harder to breathe in, and you know the thing's really working well. But so when I was a little kid, my mom would she would buy us my two brothers, and I still have two brothers, these Dickies. And so they kind of go in under your shirt, and it would look like, so and then you button it up like this, and it looks like you're wearing a turtleneck undershirt. It's like a fake, though. It just goes down to here. It's like a fake shirt. I don't know why we had those things, but then you wear it, and it looks like you're wearing like a turtleneck or a mock turtleneck under your shirt, and that was called a Dickie. Does anybody remember those Dickies? They were like fashionable. Was it in the 60s maybe? We used to wear Dickies. And I think there's a brand now, Dickies pants and maybe Dickies shirts, like their work pants and work shirts. I think if you go into like a Walmart or something, you'll find like the brand name Dickies. I'm not sure if it's the same people that made the original Dickies, but, and this is not a Dickie. I'm going to take it off now because I'm in my van, and as far as I know, nobody's coming in here, so I don't have to mask up. But like I said, I use that outside only. And if I'm going inside anywhere, I would really advise you too, to make sure when you're inside, when you're indoors with a lot of other people, make sure you're wearing a really good quality surgical type mask, or better yet, like an N95 that really, really does filter out, like, I think it's called N95 because it would filter out like 95% of like tiny particles and viruses, something like that. So there's a reason for the 95. I think that's what it means. But these days, since the numbers are just crazy, I'm wearing that indoors. So that's okay. This is what the show is about, basically. Again, it's not an advice column. I'm not going to be on here reading letters and questions and answers. No, that's not what this is. This is a show basically to calm you down, keep you company. You got a friend right here to lean on. I'm your friend. And again, these days, God, so many of us are just alone in our houses because we don't go anywhere. And I'm with Yoko, luckily, and a lot of you are with a partner or a spouse or a family member, but some people are not. Some people are unfortunately at home alone, like almost every day, because maybe their health is compromised. They don't want to go out and chance getting COVID, and they're just home. And no matter where you fit on that spectrum, I'm here for you, a friend to lean on. So let me get into some of the things I was going to talk to you about today. So that's basically what the show is about. By the way, I really appreciate thumbs up if you like this, what I'm doing, and also comments. The more you comment, the more feedback you give me, the more I can tailor the show to like maybe direction that you want it to go. If a lot of you are insomniacs and you're going to use it to just sit it by your side while you're trying to fall asleep, I can just talk really super mellow and get really boring and just tell stories that it will guarantee to put you to sleep. But on the other hand, if you're really watching it, if most of you are watching actively, then I'll probably talk a little bit differently. But you can use it for either way. No matter what you use it for, it's going to work for you. I promise that. But I will ask you for feedback. I will ask you for comments, and let me know what you think. If you think it's a total waste of your time, well, I'm sorry if it is, but I'm guessing there will be a lot of people that will not think it's a waste of their time. And even though I'm talking, I'm doing it for a reason. I'm not talking just to talk. I'm not talking just to hear myself talk. I can do that any day. I don't need a camera. I don't need a microphone or a camera to do that. I'm talking to you, for you, basically to be friends and keep you company in any way you want me to keep you company. I'm willing to do that. I'm going to take my jacket because I think maybe my body heat is warming up this fan. Even though, is that possible? It's a Class B, so it's pretty small. So the heat's not on, but outside right now it is, on my watch, it's at 32 degrees outside here in Salt Lake City. 32 degrees and sunny. So it is not super cold in this van at all right now. So it's not a striptease show. I'm not going to go beyond this. I'm not going to be taking my shirt off. It's just, this is as far as I'm going to go. Now I might take my hat off, but I'm not going to take my shirt off. So I talked about Dickies for a second because that's kind of what this thing was. And again, this should have a name. This damn thing should have a name on it. For some reason, when you're recording and when you want to find something quickly, it doesn't come right to you. And I'm sure I'll think of it afterwards. But feel free to write it in the comment section. It's a brand name. I'm pretty sure a brand name is Buff, but I don't see. It's usually written right on here, but I don't see it. But by the way, it's a cool thing. If you don't have one of these, go online. They've got them at REI. I know that you can get them almost anywhere, probably almost anywhere. But it's a really cool thing to have because again, it's easy to wear wherever you go, and you don't have to worry about always. Did I bring my mask? Did I not bring my mask? This is what I have, and it's just, I always have it on. It looks weird, it looks like a dickie, but again, I'm outside, come in contact with anybody, within 3 seconds, I've got a mask. I love it, but I'm not gonna wear it right now. So I wanna share something with you that I was thinking about just the other day, and I'm really into RV camping, but my camping experience really didn't start with RVs. My camping experience, and it didn't start with backpacking, even though I've done a lot of extensive backpacking. My camping experience started probably when I was about, how old was I? Probably about 11 years old or so. Okay, so I've got 2 younger brothers. And somehow our dad and his friend Miles, and Miles's brother? So it was like 3 older men. My dad, Miles, we called him Uncle Miles. Back in those days, I think like you called neighbors that were really close with, you called them Uncle, even though they weren't blood relatives in any way at all. But Uncle Miles was our next door neighbor, so we called him Uncle Miles. And his brother, Uncle Barry, or maybe we called him Cousin Barry. I'm not really sure. No, there was another Cousin Barry I had. He was a weird Cousin Barry was like a crazy guy. This guy for the past like many decades has not really had a job, and all he like works in his basement. He says he's curing cancer, but he's I think he's been doing this for the last 40 years or so. I don't know who pays him. I don't know what he does exactly, but he's like 40 years ago, Cousin Barry, this is not Uncle Barry, Cousin Barry had he had this invention. It was like a little box. It was called like a cancer cure box. And I don't know how the thing worked, but he would always come over to our house on the holidays, and like my brothers and I were like little kids, and he would share that. He said, like, I'm curing cancer. This box is going to cure cancer. Now, 40 some years later, I think he's still working on his cancer box. I don't know. I hope he's doing well with it, but that's a different Barry. And there are a lot of Barrys I know. There are a lot of dentists that are Barrys too. But anyway, so my father, Miles, and Barry got together. Oh, and I think Sammy, another guy named Sammy Kessler. So it was like 4 of them. Barry might have come later. I think it was my father, Miles, and Sammy. I think that's what it was. Got together and said, we're going to take the kids. And we're all boys. The girls were not invited. I think Carl, which is Miles's son, has a sister, but Debbie, she's not invited. It was only the guys. So I think this was a way of like the older guy, the fathers, getting away from their wives for like a long weekend. Looking back, I have a feeling they just want to get out of there for the weekend, for like a long weekend. So they said, we're going to take our boys camping. So I think I remember where was our very first camping trip? We didn't know anything about camping. The dads went out and bought tents and supplies, and it was car camping. So we pulled our car up till we like reserved a spot in a campground, or usually it was a state park or something like that. And again, they knew nothing about camping. We bought some tents. We would buy food like the night before we go shopping at the grocery store. We'd all go together, and we would. We didn't know what we were doing. Nobody did, but we went and we had fun. And I remember one of the first times we ever went. I don't remember where the first camping trip was. I'm trying to remember which. It was somewhere. So we lived in Maryland, and it was somewhere in that area. It was Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, somewhere, Delaware, somewhere in that area. I don't remember exactly where the first one was, but I remember. And this was, so let's see, how old am I now? 65, so at least. It was more than 50 years ago. More than 50 years ago. I remember one of the greatest memories was Uncle Miles invented this. He was making a salad for everybody. Now, so it was me, my 2 brothers, Uncle Miles, his son Carl, Sammy, and his son Kess. We call him Kessler. His name is Michael, but we call him Kessler. So at least 7 people. So Uncle Miles was making a salad for 7 people. And he had this ingenious idea. Now back in those days, we didn't have fancy salads. We had we didn't have like the spring mixes and the arugula and the spinach and basically a salad back in those days was just like iceberg lettuce. And they didn't have prepackaged salads like they do now. You had to buy like an actual head of lettuce and like rip the thing apart. And so he had this ingenious idea. The way he was going to make a salad for 7 people was he was going to rip the several heads of lettuce apart, tear them apart, put everything, I guess cut up onions and whatever, tomatoes, whatever it was. I don't know what he put in there. I don't even remember, but all this salad ingredients, threw it in a green trash bag, just threw it all in a clean, it was clean. I hope it was clean. I'm thinking back now, I hope it wasn't a dirty trash bag. But threw it all in a green trash bag, put a whole bunch of dressing in, closed the trash bag up, shook it up like that. And after that, just imagine all the ingredients were like mixed with the dressing and everything. I guess there were croutons in there and all kinds of stuff. And Uncle Miles had at that time invented what we call, still today, if I get together with any of the guys that we used to go camping with, we still call it the garbage can salad. Even though it wasn't in a can, it was in a bag, but it's still called the garbage can salad. We loved it. It was delicious. And Uncle Miles became famous for making this garbage can salad. So we used to do this. I think we did it like we did this camping trip with the guys twice a year. Usually in the spring and the fall. In the winter, it would be too cold in Maryland, in the Mid-Atlantic. It got like well below freezing, especially in those days. So we never really went. I don't think we ever went in the middle of the winter. But usually the spring and the fall were like the perfect times. And again, I swear, I know now, even though all of the fathers, yeah, they're all passed away, unfortunately. I wish I could talk to them about this again, but I know they did this as an excuse just to get the hell out of the houses, get away from the wives, get away from the families, get away from the dogs, and just go out in the middle of nowhere with their sons. And they probably would have had more fun if it was just them, but if it was just the fathers. But they had to bring the sons because we were like their excuse, I think. And so, but it was a lot of fun. We one of the high points of the camping trip, believe it or not, was the shopping the night before, or it might have been 2 nights before. But the shopping trips to the giant grocery store, 7 guys walking around with multiple grocery carts, just loading all this junk into the grocery carts. I remember one of the things that we always bought was because we cooked up like a mean breakfast. We cooked up eggs and bacon and sausage and we always would get Scrapple. I never even knew what Scrapple was until we went on these campings. Do you know have you heard of Scrapple? Do you know what it is? It's when we used to read the ingredients, and it's basically what's left over. It's like what's left over from the pig that you can't put into bacon or ham or whatever else, sausages. It's like pork snouts and all kinds of weird stuff. They just grind it up and put it in, make it into these little patties, and it's called Scrapple. And we used to grill it up on the grill in these camping trips, and it actually tasted. I wouldn't eat it these days, but back then, I think anything went back then. We could just back then we didn't really care what we ate, and I'm starting to think some of the stuff we ate back then that we stay away from today, like eggs. People think too many eggs are not healthy. I think they are healthy. Especially ever since I gave up my vegan diet. By the way, I caught some shit for giving up my vegan diet. Some of them, I had a few hardcore vegans actually email me, and they gave me a hard time. Like I don't have notes in front of me like what they said, but some hardcore vegans can be very vile and like really judgmental, and some of them were like downright mean to me, and like I don't want to hear your shit anymore or something like. By the way, I'm trying to keep this as clean as I can. I'm not going to use the F-bomb at all. I decided I'm going to keep this clean. So sorry I let a word like that slip out, because you might have kids running around the house, and I promise to try to keep it as clean as possible. But we cooked up Scrapple. We cooked up like beautiful breakfasts. I don't remember really what we generally had for lunch. But yeah, no, getting back to we went shopping the day or two before. So imagine 7 guys, mostly kids, 3 fathers, running around this grocery store, which was called the Giant in the Mid-Atlantic area. We were in Maryland. And we had like a standing joke, and the kids didn't understand it back then, but the fathers would say, okay, while we're shopping, we got to look for some camp mothers. And it became kind of a joke, like every time the kids, being 11 or 12 years old, I loved it. I mean, look for camp mothers, but the fathers, I think, were not that they were serious, but I think they probably would have loved to have had some fun on the side, if you know what I'm saying. Like maybe some other mothers accompanying us on this camping trip, because the layout was the boys. So there were 5 of us. 5 of us generally. Now we had some people that showed up sometimes. Sometimes I didn't even know who they were. Like one time, a cousin of Carl's. I think his name was Kenny. I don't even know where the guy came from, but they said Kenny's coming on this camping trip. But like I didn't know who the hell Kenny was. But this guy Kenny showed up. But generally it was me, my 2 brothers, Carl, and Kess. We were the kids, and we stayed in one big tent. I remember the brand name of the tent. I think it was called a Hetrick tent. And it was this big, you couldn't never use it for backpacking. It was for car camping. It was like this tremendous tent. And so all the kids stayed in the tent, and the 3 fathers stayed in their own tent. And who knows what they were doing? I mean, who knows what kind of fun they? I don't know. I don't know what was going on in their tent when we were sleeping in ours. But I don't know if they ever brought camp mothers in. Not that I know. I don't think they did. I don't think they did. But they were all. But that was the joke at the grocery store. Let's find some camp mothers. And looking back now, over 50 years later, that was funny. These three older men. They weren't older men, but they were probably in their 30s back. They were like half my age that I am now. They were in their 30s, and they're looking for camp mothers. I thought that was hilarious. But cousin, what's his name? Did I say cousin Barry? Your cousin Barry. He was not a regular, but he started showing up, I think, on later trips, and I think he didn't really like the actual camping life in tents, because one day the guy showed up, and this relates to RVing. This is hilarious. Barry bought this is from recollection. I knew nothing about RVs back then, but Barry showed up in a trailer. He showed up with an RV trailer. So in other words, it was not a fifth wheel, but it was like one of those travel trailers. From what I can remember, he had like and nobody had pickup trucks back in those days. I think they were like almost unheard of. He showed up in a station wagon, like a Ford Country Squire station wagon, and he had this trailer attached to it, and that was going to be the men's trailer. And it was, had it was back in the 60s, or maybe 60s or early 70s, but it was and I think it would probably look very similar to the trailers of today, except a lot older. Just like cars, cars are cars. And when we look at a car, I'm looking at a car that's 2020 or 2021 or a 2015, whatever it might be. They look like cars, but back then cars looked very different, but they were still cars. So this travel trailer was, it had a kitchen, it had, I'm assuming it had a toilet, it had like beds for three or four men. They all slept in it. And Barry had a rule. Barry's rule was, he was very particular about this trailer, and Barry didn't want any of the kids, and I can probably understand this now, because I'm looking around, and I've got a Class B, but I'm looking around, I wouldn't want, if we went on a camping trip, I wouldn't want 5 kids running around my little Class B right here. But his was larger, it was a travel trailer, but it wasn't tremendous from what I can remember. And he had no experience in trailers either, so it was like the first time he ever got one and first time he ever towed one, but I think it worked out for him. But he had a rule. The rule was, no kids allowed in the trailer, except me, because Kess and I were the oldest. So Kess and I were allowed in the trailer for a short period of time to sit down and just look at it. But the younger kids were never allowed in the trailer. They never got to see the inside of the trailer. So I was one of the privileged kids, being one of the older ones, that got to be inside Uncle Barry, or was it Uncle Barry's trailer? I don't remember his name. His name was Barry, but I don't remember what we called him back then. So that was fun. He had a flipping trailer that he brought. It was hilarious, and that, I think the trailer only made it 2 or 3 times on camping trips. It wasn't very often. Normally we were in tents. And I'm trying to think back, like what did we do during the day? Like we got up and had breakfast, and I think we walked around and did a little very light hiking, maybe not real true hiking, but walking around. And I don't know, maybe sometimes we got into the car or cars and drove around little towns. I'm not sure, but I remember one time, and this is when we got a little bit older, and I'm not really proud of this story, but I'm going to share with you what we did one time. It was very bad, actually. I don't know why we would ever do such a thing, but we were kids, and kids are stupid sometimes, and kids do stupid things, and I don't know why we didn't have more supervision. Oh, and sometimes we brought our bicycles and we'd ride our bikes around the campground. But one time, I don't know, we had this, somehow we acquired and this is just the kids, we bought a large screwdriver. This thing was like large. It was like a large, heavy duty screwdriver. And we happened to be at this campground that everything was fairly new. And we had this idea that we're going to take this screwdriver and start unscrewing signs, like a stop sign, I know it's really bad. It's not good. But we unscrewed like stop signs and yield signs and speed limit 15 or whatever. Like we started unscrewing and disassembling these signs around the campground, maybe even on the public roads. I'm not even sure. I don't remember. But when all was said and done, we must have had, I don't know, I'm just guessing. I think I might even still have a picture of us around one of the signs. I'm going to see if I can find that. But we must have had like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 to 10 signs that we took down. Now, I know, don't yell at me. I know it's stupid. It's dangerous. It was illegal. But we had these signs and we had them outside of our tent. And one afternoon after we finished taking a lot of these signs down, because we were going to collect them. We were thinking we were going to take them home or something. I'm not sure what we were going to do. I don't know why we even did it. It was so stupid. But I remember we saw a ranger walking towards our campground. And we got scared. We were scared as hell, the kids. We thought, like, this is really illegal. I mean, we could get in a lot of trouble for taking these signs down. I don't know if they would put us in jail, but our dads could go to jail maybe. I don't know. But so Carl or Kess, somebody thought really, really fast, and they brought all of our sleeping bags out from the tent and covered them over the signs and kind of said, I think it's time to air out our sleeping bags. And so they covered the signs up. And sure enough, by the time the ranger got there, he just saw a bunch of sleeping bags out on the ground, appearing that they were being aired out, and we never got caught. But we came this close to maybe ending up in jail, or at least in a courtroom, or with the sheriff's office or something. That would have been horrible. And I do blame it on our dads, because our dads were not responsible. They knew we were doing this. They knew, but they were not responsible enough to say, hey kids, no, this is illegal. This is dangerous. You're going to cause an accident. You can't do that. They didn't say that. They were kind of like either looking the other way or laughing with us, or I don't remember, but it was horrible. And I'm not proud of that right now. And I'm probably, God is probably going to come down and strike me someday for doing bad things like that. But again, I was a kid, and kids do stupid things. I remember even when I was in college, I mean, speaking of stupid things for no reason, I don't know, maybe I was really bad. Maybe I had like a lot of frustration and like pent up bad energy when I was growing up. Maybe I had to like release it in some way. I'm not sure. But I remember even when I was in college, I would do like stupid things. And I know you could say, like, yeah, kids or college kids do stupid things, but my friend and I would take we'd buy balloons and we fill them up with water. So we had like a whole bunch of water balloons, like buckets of water balloons. And we'd take a drive to an overpass bridge over Interstate 95, because the college I went to was in Virginia. And so the Interstate 95 ran like very close to where my college was. And we'd take buckets of these balloons, and as like an 18-wheeler, and we'd be up on a bridge, like a high bridge, and as an 18-wheeler would come by below the bridge, we'd like chuck the water balloon at the 18-wheeler. Now, we've never hit the cab part, and I know like Steve is a retired truck driver. Steve, don't kill me. I was a stupid kid. But we would throw the water balloons at the trailer portion. And so as the water balloon hit the trailer portion, it would make this loud noise, like boom, and like water would just splash everywhere. We were horrible. I mean, again, we could have gone to jail for that, I'm sure. I can't count the number of things that when I was younger I did that I probably could have gone to jail for, gotten in trouble, or gotten killed for. So here's a story that so this goes back to college again. Again, I'm a stupid young kid, really stupid. I had my own car. It was an old, don't think that I was not like a spoiled rich kid. As a matter of fact, we were like a kind of a middle class to upper middle class family. And when I was 16, I didn't have a car, but when I was 18, my dad bought me because I was in college, my dad bought me a 1970 AMC Hornet. It was red. I loved it. It was an AMC Hornet. Now it was probably 1973 3 that I got this. So it was 3-year-old used car. It was a piece of junk. I hate, but you know, even though it was a piece of junk, I loved it. I loved this car. And I went to this upholstery shop. I remember with my own money and asked this guy that ran the upholstery shop to because the seats were finished with this really cheap, I don't know what, like this cheap leatherette type plastic stuff. So back in those days, it was really cool to have like these like Levi seat coverings. So this guy put like customized denim seat covers, and it was like my baby. It was a cool car. So I was driving down. I'm in college down near Richmond, Virginia. I'm driving down Route 1, and it's like I guess where I was, it was a 4-lane, maybe it was a 4-lane highway. So two going each way, 2 lanes going each way. And I'm in the left lane, and I think I'm going at least the speed limit, probably faster because I was a kid, and I'm probably going faster than the speed limit. And there's this car behind me who is tailing the living daylights out of me. This guy is just on, I felt he was like this close to me. And I couldn't get over because there was traffic in the right lane. And I'm thinking, what's this guy doing? Why is he tailing me so close? What's he want from me? What does he want me to do? So being the stupid kid that I was, and I mean really stupid, I don't know if I'm going to ever air this thing because I'm talking about so many of my stupid things that I did, but maybe it puts things in perspective. Maybe we've all done stupid things in our lives. So I rolled my window down and gave this guy the finger, this guy that was tailing me this close. And I'm giving him the finger, and I could tell he's still tailing me, and he's pissed off. And finally I got to move over. And now Route 1 it's not an interstate highway. It's a U.S. highway. So there's traffic lights. You go through towns and everything like that. So next thing I know, I was at a traffic light, a red light. There's a car in front of me. And then this guy, I'm stopped. There's a car in front of me, and this guy pulls up right behind me. And the light's red, and I see him. I'm looking at my rearview mirror. I see him getting out of his car, approaching my car. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what he was going to do. Of course, I had my windows closed and my doors locked, but I didn't know what he was going to do. And the light was red, and I had nowhere to go. I was boxed in, so I couldn't go anywhere anyway. Luckily, I believe in God. There must be a God. There's got to be a God. When I tell you this story, you'll agree with me. There's a God. Because I was a naive, stupid little bratty kid. Luckily, the light turned green. Just at the time he was like just about to approach my car, the light turned green. The car in front of me went. I sped off. This guy ran back to his car and, got back into traffic. So I figured I'm home for, okay, I'm not going to get caught in any red lights again like that. Next thing I know, I'm in the right lane minding my business. This guy pulls up to the left of me. I look to my left. He's aiming a gun. He's aiming a gun right at my face. I slammed on my reflex told me, I guess my fight or flight reflex told me to, I slammed on my brake. So I stopped. He went zooming. Of course, he didn't know I was going to put the brake on, so he went zooming off. I slammed on my brake and made a quick U-turn and got the hell out of there. Now, I will never forget this story because when he was approaching my car when I was at the red light, was he gonna shoot me with his gun? He had a gun. He was pointing it right at me in the car. Was he going to shoot me? Was he going to kill me? Was an 18-year-old's life going to end because he did something really, really stupid that he never should have done? But again, I was too stupid and young and naive to realize that at the time. And so I don't think it's worth taking a life of somebody that is just young and stupid. I mean, this guy obviously was prepared to do something. I don't know whether he was just going to scare me or whether he was really going to shoot me, but he was really pissed. He was really, really pissed at me, and he could have ended my life if he wanted to. I think he could have found a way to, but again, I believe that some power somewhere helped me get out of that situation. I mean, the light turned green just in time. If it had been another 15 seconds, he would have been able to reach, 10 seconds, he would have been able to reach my car. The light turned green just in time. I haven't told that story. I think about, I'll tell you, to this day, and it's been how many years? It's been, close to 50 years? Is that right? Close to 50 years. I still think about that story all the time. Like what could have happened? What may have happened? How I was so lucky to get out of there. I mean, it still scares me to this day, because that's probably one of the things in my life that took place that could have ended it. I mean, there've probably been nothing was that, I don't think anything's ever been that close. That was really, really bad. So after telling that story, and I have not told many people that story, you now are privy to a story that, like, almost embarrassed to tell. The only thing that buffers it is time, because as time goes on, we realize that we've done stupid things. I know you've probably done very stupid things too. And you're not perfect, so I hope you're not judging me. These days, I've got to take a sip of my green tea. Give me a second, because I'm sorry. Today this is not green tea. What I'm drinking now is hibiscus tea. Hibiscus tea. By the way, hibiscus tea is very, very calming and relaxing. I've been using this a lot lately. Ever since with my crazy health scare, I need like relaxation. And hibiscus tea, if you look for it in the supermarket or Whole Foods or wherever you go, it's pretty easy to find. I would recommend it. Hibiscus it's herbal tea. It's not caffeinated. I've got to take a sip of this because telling that story even gets me like a little bit riled up. It's scary. And I've been through that area, not real recently, but when I drive through that area, when I lived in Maryland still, if Yoko and I were ever driving south and we were driving, let's say, down to Florida, or I would usually be on 95, but if I would ever go onto Route 1 and see that area, it would give me the chills. I know pretty much exactly where that took place, and it like freaks me out. That story really, really freaks me out badly. But it was college, and we do a lot of stupid things in college when we're young. And I was thinking also about something that, when we're young, like right now, like we kind of like choose our friends, right? You choose your friends, you choose your mate, you choose your partner. You can't choose your family, but you choose your friends. But think about it. Back in those days, I think, at least, excuse me, in my case, like my mom generally chose our friends for us because, like, it was out of my control. Like my next door neighbor, well, Uncle Miles, he's the one that was camping with us, and his son Carl, we became best friends. But we became best friends by default because he was my next door neighbor, and I didn't have anybody else. There's nobody else to really I mean, there were other people down the block more that I kind of knew, but Carl was right next to me. He was exactly 1 year younger than me. I still keep in touch with Carl. Carl lives in South Florida now, and we've known each other basically all our lives. Well, I'm a year older, so I knew him basically, from the time maybe a little after he was born to now. We still keep in touch, but we were kind of friends by default because it's not the kind of thing that I could go out and meet guys and say, I want to be your friend. But he was my next door neighbor, and we, even if we hated each other, I think we'd have to be friends because who else were we going to hang with? And Carl and I did get into fights sometimes. We got into like physical fist fights. So I was like this taller, really skinny, lanky guy, and Carl was kind of like a shorter, stockier, much bigger guy. And I think one time I said something to Carl that he didn't like, and he like pinned me down he like knocked me down on the ground and pinned me down and beat me up. And we didn't talk to each other for like a little while after that, but then we became, kids do that kind of thing, and then we became friends again. And again, to this day, even though we're not like close, we do communicate by email and text sometimes. And this is the funniest thing. We're trying to get a reunion camping trip together for next year, for 2021. We can't do anything now. Hopefully by 2021 it'll be safe. But the reunion camping trip, now all the dads have passed away. So if we do a reunion camping trip, it's going to be me, my two brothers, Carl, and Kessler. it's going to be 5 of us doing a reunion camping trip. How much fun would this be? Now, these days, I don't think the guys would want to do car camping. I wouldn't want to, I don't think I'm going to bring my rig depending on where we go, because it's a small Class B and it's really for me and Yoko, and I don't want like other guys in here sleeping. It wouldn't really be good. But so probably what we'll do, we've talked a little bit about this, we'll probably do some glamping. And you know what glamping is. You know, you pay a little bit more and you go to a lot of campgrounds have these glamping things, but you're staying in like a like a structure that's what could it be, a what are they called? What do they call those things? I can't remember. Sometimes they're teepees. Sometimes they have teepees, but it's glamping. So glamping means glamorous camping. And even if it's a teepee, it's got electricity, it's got like real beds, and it's got TVs. So it's like still camping, but it's outside, and it's for people that want to spend more money and be comfortable and not be sleeping on the ground with a sleeping pad and a sleeping bag. So we'll probably do glamping. So we're talking about this now. We really want to set up a reunion camping trip, and we call it CTICU. Now, when we were little kids, when we had camping trips coming up, we had this little well, it's not really an acronym, it's just an abbreviation. The kids would always look at each other, and we had this little thing. We'd go, CTICU, CTICU. We were so excited. That stood for Camping Trip is Coming Up. And we started right after the last camping trip, like even though the next one's not going to be for 6 months, whenever we see each other, we'd say, CTICU, camping trip is coming up. And it was like we were so excited about this, but we haven't done it with each other in, I don't know, how long has it been? It's been 50 years, 40 to 45 to 50 years, I think, something like, I don't know. So we're going to hopefully have a reunion camping trip. How much fun would that be? I don't know what we would do. We're all different. So I turned out to be, well, you know who I am. I turned out to be a dentist, and a retired dentist now, and now I do my RV stuff and my RV dummy stuff, and I have now this series called Lean on Me, which I hope you can lean on me. I hope this is working for you. And so that's what I did. Both my brothers also became dentists. So we had 3 dentists. Kessler turned out to be, he was a physician, anesthesiologist. He's over in Denver now working as an anesthesiologist. And Carl, little Carl, stocky Carl, he became an accountant, but then he started a business where he sells equipment to restaurants, especially equipment such as like salad bar equipment and like like deli cases and things like that. He's done really well. I think out of all of us, this guy is like he's done really. I mean, super. None of us have done poorly, but he's done like super well. He could probably afford to like buy the campground we're going to stay at. Maybe, we'll see. I hope he's not watching this. That would be embarrassing. I hope he doesn't, because again, I can't count anybody else's money, but Carl just seems like has had this business that's done like super well. And good for him. I'm really happy for him. We don't all stay in touch with each other. Of course, I stay in touch with my brothers. I stay in touch with Kessler. I stay in touch with Carl. So I stay in touch with everybody. But my brothers don't really stay in touch with, other than me, they don't stay in touch with Carl or Kessler. Kessler being in Denver, we would get together every winter and ski when I used to go to Colorado a lot. But now he's in Colorado. I'm in Utah, and he's spending a lot of his winters now in, what do you call that area? That real ritzy area in California, Palm Springs, maybe Palm Springs, Palm Desert area. He's wintering there a lot, so he's not even going to be skiing a lot now. I don't know why would anybody that lives in a great environment like Colorado or Utah, where you got all this skiing and snow. I'm looking at snow right now. You got all this skiing and snow around you. Why would you ever want to go to a warm environment when you got all this beautiful snow and you can ski? Why would you ever want to do that? I don't understand that. And then there is my old buddy Fradkin. He's another guy. So he was like loosely my cousin. This was in another neighborhood when we moved. He's like loosely my cousin, but Fradkin also was his name is Mark Fradkin, but we called him Fradkin. His family, his parents got divorced very young. Like, it was before I even really knew what divorce was, but his parents got divorced really when he was really young, when we were all young. But he was the one kid on the block that had the first color TV. And we would all go to Fradkin's house to watch. What was the show we all wanted to watch in color? I think it might have been, what was it? It might have been Batman. I'm not sure. Because back in those days, most shows were not in color. When color TVs like first came out, most shows were still broadcast in black and white. But I remember Batman was broadcast in color. And I don't know if my brothers were able to come down to watch, but I would always want to go to Fradkin's house and watch Batman in color. And he had this fancy house, and you could tell like you could tell he was pretty wealthy. And I felt like a little weird because if anybody came to my house and wanted to watch TV, they would get to watch it on this small black and white TV. That's all we had really. Those old TVs, like the TV was real big, but the screen was like that, and that's all we had. But so I made it a point to go to Fradkin's house and always watch shows that were in color. Do you remember before a show came on in those days? I'm not sure if it was like on NBC, but it would say the following show is brought to you in living color. Oh wow, this show's going to be in color. But meanwhile, we only had a black and white TV set, and they sold these stupid novelty items for the poor people like us that didn't have color TVs. You could actually get this. It was like a piece of clear. Does anybody remember this? They sold it like these novelty shops, and you get it like in back of comic books maybe. But these clear pieces of stick-on plastic, I guess it is. And so like think of it as like a almost like a screen protector for a phone. Like, although now mostly they're glass, but before they were glass, they're like plastic cover that you put on the screen to protect it. So almost like that. But the top part was like tinted blue. The bottom part was tinted green. And I think in between was tinted maybe some kind of skin tone. So you put this over your TV, your black and white TV, and it gives the appearance, because a lot of times, let's face it, if you're watching a show or a cartoon, the top's going to be the sky, so that would be blue. Then you got the grass, that's green, and then in between maybe flesh tones or whatever it was. So like it gives the appearance that you're watching a colored TV for probably back in those days it probably cost like $0.25, I'm guessing. These days, if it was available because of inflation, it would probably be $10. But so the poor people like us we put those things on. Well, my parents didn't do it. I think my brothers and I got one time and tried it out. It was a piece of junk. It was stupid, but it made us feel, even for 5 minutes, that we had a colored TV. It was pretty funny. But I don't know. I think life back then was really. Don't you agree that life back then was just much simpler? We didn't have. I couldn't make a video like this. I could hardly make an audio recording. I did have a little, when I got to be maybe a little bit older, I got like a little reel-to-reel tape recorder. So I made audio recordings, but forget about making a video recording. You couldn't do that until the 80s, I think. But life was simpler. We didn't, when we wanted entertainment, we wanted to do something. Well, we went on camping trips with our dads, or like if I wanted to do something outside, when I was a kid, I would walk out my front door and go over to Fradkin's house, and of course Fradkin had this like the highest quality basketball goal net possible, probably the most expensive one you could possibly get. He had it, so we would all go over to Fradkin's house and shoot hoops. And we wouldn't usually play one-on-one games. We'd play a game called Horse. And to this day, I actually played Yoko in Horse. There's a basketball court across the street. We played Horse within the past year. We got a basketball, and there's a basketball court. I said, Yoko, let's go over and play a game of Horse. And you know how to play Horse. On the first person shoots. And if you make the shot, the second person has to be in that exact position and make that exact shot. And if you don't, you get an H. And whoever gets to Horse, I think that's the way it works. Whoever gets to spell Horse first loses. So in other words, if you make a hard shot, the person that follows you has to make that same hard shot. If they miss it, they get an H, they get an O, they get an R, and then they lose eventually, whoever spells out Horse. That was like the game we would play at Fradkin's house, like almost every day. I'd get home from school and we'd probably play Horse. And also we'd play stickball out in the street. We lived on like a little cul-de-sac court, so we'd have these little stickball games, and that was fun. That was fun. I would say that was more fun than I think what the kids of today are doing, playing video games, and I think a lot of kids these days are skateboarding, and I think that's good. It's outdoors, it's exercise, it's fun. But we didn't even know about that kind of stuff. We just basically played stickball, horse, some tennis. If we had enough people, we could get like a little softball game together. But more likely we'd be in like little league. Like I was in little league, so little league is like guaranteed. You're on a team, no matter how good or how bad you are. You're on a team and you're playing baseball against other kids, and that was a good thing too. I would play little league in the spring. I guess it went into the summer a little bit, spring and summer, and it would be like real baseball, but you're just playing with kids. And my dad would be a manager a couple years, and he thought I was a horrible. He didn't favor me like you. I didn't expect him to favor me, but my dad, I really wanted to pitch. Like again, I was tall, slender. I think I had like the perfect build to be like a fastball. I think I could be a really good pitcher, but he liked this guy named Michael Glass on the team much better. He would always have Michael Glass pitch, and he would always throw me out in the outfield or at first base or something. And I said, Dad, I really want to pitch. I think I could be a great pitcher. But my dad, for some reason, was like against me being a pitcher. And I think that somehow that affected my life. I look back and I'm thinking, could I have been a pitcher in Little League? And then maybe I would have gone on to pitch in high school, and then maybe college, or I could have been maybe a Major League Baseball pitcher, maybe. But if that happened, maybe I wouldn't be making an RV channel, because who knows where my life would have taken me. And I don't know what I'd be doing now. I'd probably be doing commercials for like reverse mortgages or something, because don't like all the old athletes, they pay them to come back and do commercials for like these tacky things like reverse mortgages and gold and all this weird stuff. I don't know, why do they, like, Joe Namath doesn't have enough money that he's got to like do these cheesy commercials now for like some kind of financial company. I don't understand, unless they're paying him like millions and millions and millions. I don't know why he'd want to do that. I would think Joe Namath has like so much money. He like just comes on these, it just looks weird having like an ex-athlete like that pimping some kind of financial thing. I don't know. To me it looks a little weird. So who knows what direction my life would have gone, only if my dad would have let me be a pitcher in Falstaff Little League. And then I went on to Pikesville Little League. I started off at Falstaff Little League, then it was Pikesville Little League. And I was like an okay player. I wasn't the greatest, but I didn't suck. But I think if my father would have worked with me and trained me properly, maybe he didn't have the wherewithal to train me to be a pitcher. Maybe he didn't know how to do it. Maybe that's why he didn't want me to pitch. But I think I had like a natural, I really do. To this day, I think I had a natural talent. Look at this. Oh, ow. Oh, I threw my arm out almost. Oh, see, when you get older, it's tougher. Although Yoko and I had been playing some tennis when it was a little warmer, like a few weeks ago. We went across the street where they have the basketball court in the park. We actually played some singles tennis, and it's the first time I played tennis in decades, and I loved it. And I was out to win. I wasn't out to let Yoko win. I was out to win. When I play a game, I'm out to win, baby. If you've fallen asleep, I hope you don't let your device, I hope you don't let the battery run out, because you'll wake up in the morning and your device will be batteryless, or maybe you plugged it in. Maybe it's a good idea if you're going to use this series to fall asleep, at least plug your device in next to you in bed, so when you do fall asleep, you don't lose all your battery power. If you've been roaming around listening to parts of my stories, I hope you enjoyed. But this is basically what it's going to be like. Maybe you think it's just horrible and it's a waste of time, and Dave is just talking about stupid subjects. Well, again, I said it's not for everybody, but again, many of us just need that hug, and I'm giving you a virtual hug, because in my stories, which I'm telling from my heart, I wish I were with you right now in the same room, but we can't be. So this is the next best thing. I'm coming out of your screen, out of your device, out of your TV, however I'm doing this. But I hope you enjoy this, and thank you very much for sticking around for episode 1 of A Friend to Lean On. I'm not sure how often I'll do them, but if it's fun and if I get enough good feedback from you guys, I'll try to do these as often as I can. Because I have fun doing these, because it's not only is this therapy for you maybe, but it's therapy for me, talking about, and let me tell you something, I've got crazier stories. I've been through. I've got stories that I could just. We can talk and talk and talk. And if you have anything you want me to talk about, again, I'm not going to be answering questions. I'm not going to say, oh, I've got a letter from Jim. He wants to know. No, I'm not going to be doing that. But if you have subjects you want me to try to get to, and don't make them RV topics. I don't want to be talking about how to empty a black tank. That's not what I'm doing here for this series. But if you have like something you want me to talk about, write into me. I do really want you to comment and let me know what you think or what you thought of this first episode of A Friend to Lean On. Until next time, I do love you. And I want to say that truly. I'm Dr. Dave. I do love you. And thanks for being with me. I'll see you on the next episode of A Friend to Lean On. And you have a friend right here to lean on. See you later. Bye.